They say the taller and more luxurious the high-rise buildings of cities look, the deeper the silence and loneliness behind them truly is. In these concrete jungles, behind glass walls, the people who work there often become so blind in the race against time that they completely lose awareness of the changing world around them. They believe they are safe. But what if, in the middle of that endless rush, you suddenly see something that does not belong to this world at all? This is the story of a 26-year-old man named Advait. Advait was a senior software engineer in a well-known tech company in Bengaluru. He was extremely practical in his life, a man who trusted science and logic. Advait considered things like ghosts, spirits, or supernatural entities to be nothing more than imagination and mental illusion. But that night, this belief of his was about to shatter forever. One night, because of the deadline of a major project, Advait had to stay very late at the office. The clock hands were pointing to 1:30 a.m. All the lights on the floor had been turned off, except for a small desk lamp on Advait's table, which was casting a strange shadow in the silence. After finishing his work, exhausted, Advait picked up his bag and walked with heavy steps toward the elevator. The office was on the 14th floor. The silence spread through the corridor was so deep that Advait could hear the echo of his own footsteps. As soon as he pressed the elevator button, he suddenly felt a cold gust of air on the back of his neck. It felt as if someone was standing right behind him. Advait quickly turned back and saw a cleaning worker standing there. He was wearing an old blue uniform and holding a wooden stick with a wet mop in his hand. Advait gave him a formal, faint smile, but the man did not respond. He kept staring down at the floor as if searching for something. The elevator doors opened with a heavy sound, and both stepped inside. Advait pressed the G button for the ground floor. The elevator began to descend. The silence inside the elevator started making Advait uneasy. Suddenly, when it reached the 9th floor, the elevator stopped with a violent jerk. The lights above began flickering rapidly, and within seconds, even the fan stopped with a creaking noise. In panic, Advait repeatedly pressed the emergency button and rang the alarm, but there was no response from outside. He looked toward the man standing beside him and said, hoping for help, "Brother, it seems the elevator is stuck. We need to call the helpline. Maybe we'll have to call a mechanic." The man still did not look at him, but this time he broke his silence. In an extremely cold and harsh voice, he said, "What's the hurry, sir? Why such a rush to go down? Some people stop right here, forever." Hearing this, goosebumps rose on Advait's body. At that moment, a rotten, foul smell began spreading inside the elevator cabin, like a piece of flesh that had been decaying in water for weeks. As soon as the screen lit up, its light fell on the elevator mirror. What he saw there made his hands tremble, and the phone slipped from his grip onto the floor. In the reflection, Advait was standing alone, but the man beside him was not there. Only a dirty, wet mop was floating upright in the air. Advait's throat went completely dry with terror. Slowly, he turned his head to the side. The man was still standing there, but now his appearance had changed. Black blood was dripping from his blue uniform. His face had turned pale white, and his eyes were completely missing. There were only hollow, horrifying sockets. Suddenly, the remaining elevator light went completely out. In the pitch darkness, Advait could only hear the heavy, wet breathing of the man, now extremely close to him. Then, Advait felt something cold and sticky around his feet. He looked down and saw thick red liquid, like blood, filling the elevator floor like a rising spring. The liquid rose up to his knees. Suddenly, the man leaned very close to Advait's ear. His voice carried a strange desperation. He whispered, "Sir, the floor is still dirty. You made it dirty. I need to clean it." At that very moment, lightning struck loudly and its flash entered through the cracks of the elevator. With a violent jerk, Advait's head slammed into the wall and he lost consciousness. In his unconscious state, he saw a blurred, horrifying vision. Years ago, that same cleaning worker was working near this elevator one night. The elevator door had remained open due to a technical fault, but the cabin was not there. In the darkness, his foot slipped and he fell straight from the 14th floor into the deep elevator shaft. All night he suffered there, screaming for help. But no one heard his voice. By morning, because of dirty water filling his lungs and severe injuries, he had died. The next morning, when security guards opened the elevator door with a manual key, they found Advait lying unconscious on the floor. The shocking part was the elevator was completely dry, but Advait's clothes were soaked, as if he had just been pulled out of a deep lake or ocean. When he regained consciousness in the hospital, he tremblingly narrated everything. At first, no one believed him, but when the company's records from 5 years ago were examined, the management was stunned. Exactly 5 years earlier, on the same date, a cleaning worker had died after falling into the elevator shaft. At that time, the company had completely suppressed the news to avoid bad publicity. The very next day after recovering, Advait resigned from the company. Today, many years have passed since Advait left Bengaluru, but his fear has never ended. Even now, he hesitates to step into any tall building. He always chooses stairs instead of elevators, even if he has to go to the 20th floor, because he constantly fears that in the darkness of some trapped elevator, he might again hear that cold whisper, "Sir, the floor is still dirty." If you found this true incident-based story spine-chilling, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Sure Spooky. And do tell us in the comments, do you also feel afraid when you enter an elevator alone?